All right, folks, we just did another pretty epic listening session. Yep. So we went from the NX-Tremes, kept listening to those, and then we moved into the NX-Oticas, which are the speakers that I have. But there are some differences in the components in Danny's NX-Oticas and mine. Yep. Mine have superior caps than what you have.
Yeah, this one had the bass level crossover in it.
I know you don't want to plug your own stuff, but I want to plug it for you. So how much is that bass kit that we're listening to right now?
$22.95.
$22.95 for everything you need.
Everything includes a flat pack.
Flat packs, you're ready to rock and roll.
The only thing you need is veneer and paint.
Yeah, or if you don't want a veneer, then just paint it. Yeah, okay. Yep. So listen to those, and then we finished out the night by listening to, and they're still playing in there, your studio monitors. Yeah. What you're calling your... Is there an official name for those?
Just calling them studio monitors.
That's creative, Danny.
That's what they were designed for. There's,
the NX-Studios.
Within that same family.
NX-Studios.
I like the NX-Studios.
That's it. We just named them.
We just renamed them.
All right. So, who wants to go first?
I'll let you guys talk.
Yeah, I mean...
I hear this stuff all the time.
I mean, listen, so maybe a quick description of the... So I'll say this. There was a definite difference between the X-Treme and the Otica right off the bat for me in terms of clarity and detail.
Okay.
Now, it's not to say that the Otica was lacking
in clarity. Okay.
It's just that the X-Treme had that extra level of detail. And so I was sitting there thinking, like, why? I mean, there's more woofers, but everything else is the same. Yeah. And so it turns out that tweeter is a slightly different tweeter, Danny?
Yeah, that's RGR Neo 3.
Okay.
Versus the BG.
Versus the BG was the older BG was in the it was a custom BG. It was done for Serenity Acoustics, but it was a custom BG unit, which is similar. That I still had in the NX-Otica, which was what I had when I originally designed it.
Yeah.
So that's like the base original version that we were listening to.
So we have a slightly souped up
little better tweeter. Yeah, it has pure copper terminals on it. That makes a difference in the clarity. And we had, of course, there was higher quality parts in the NX-Treme.
Didn't know that, but now that I do, it makes sense. So, folks, higher
those upgrades,
upgraded caps matter. I will look at any one of you and tell you it matters. It absolutely matters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you order any of our kits. I mean, we try to make the base model available at the lowest price, affordable to get them into those models. But yeah, going up the ladder there, you start adding upgrades. You're adding performance.
Yep.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And then the studio monitor, or the X, what do we call them again?
NX-Studios.
NX-Studios. I trademark that. The NX-Studios have the same tweeter.
Yes.
Yep.
And the same components as the X-Treme. So those two were the same. The Otica was the outlier.
In terms of level of performance, the same.
And it was detailed and revealing and everything you'd want a studio monitor to be. In fact, what I loved about that speaker, which is a little bit different than the other speakers, is you built like to where it's kind of like air on both sides. It's open baffle all the way through with a ramped up. I don't know how you did it.
A planar magnetic tweeter is just magical when you put it in an open baffle and you get that radiation pattern on both sides.
On both sides, yeah.
The only way to do that and create a usable box speaker was to somewhat shield it from being totally front to back.
Yeah.
But put a divider between the two and kind of made a little bit of a ramp there and opened it to the top. Yeah. So you get that spaciousness and openness out of it, but you still have a box speaker.
I would say that it was funny because I think all three of them had about the same type of layering and soundstage depth.
Yeah.
Depth.
The X-Treme had it in height that the other ones didn't have it because those extra woofers up top.
The scale of that speaker.
The size of the choirs, the size of some of the instruments was just that much bigger.
There's some that we listened to where there's an audience applause.
Yeah.
And it was just
instead of like a round table of people, it was like a whole auditorium of people for sure.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yep, it does scale better.
The thing that's messing with me is Danny's NX-Oticas don't have the same parts that my NX-Oticas do. Lesser parts, lesser quality caps. And I'm convinced that I'm so mad at you.
I don't think it's the speakers.
No, I don't think it is. That's where I'm going with this is there is still a clarity difference that I'm hearing in Danny's overall rig than what I'm hearing with my NX-Oticas in my rig, which is really blowing my mind. And like Danny and I were just sitting there just chatting as we were listening. I was like, I'm actually missing out on some stuff.
Yeah.
Like clearly in the upper registries specifically, I'm missing out on some clarity and some detail.
What do you think? What are some of your theories as to why?
Well, the amplification, the preamp, the digital front end that we're using is...
I think he's onto something with getting all that stuff off the grid, but the Leo does have ultra caps, so it is off the grid, but there's got to be other stuff at play.
And listen, I brought it up. This room is not as treated as yours. Yours is a lot of absorption panels.
That is correct, yes.
So it's possible that
changes reverberation and reflection, though, but not what he's hearing directly from the speaker.
Sure, that's true.
That's true. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, and that's messing with me. So there's that. And then one thing we didn't talk about in the last roundtable discussion was, if we're talking about just depth and then width, man, these speakers are like spreading their wings, and it's just like crazy to hear just not even just like the width and the depth, but the layering in between different instruments, different vocals. There's a clear start and stop to one to the other, and in between it, there's nothing. It's like black, and then so it's easier to figure out placement of everything within the stage. So it's not about just, it's really wide and it's really deep. There's actually starting and stopping of the instruments, which is crazy.
Of course, and the rig is set up to where it's allowing us to hear those things for one.
Yeah.
So it's the tool that I use to listen for those things and being able to hear them. Then it allows me to do the things that make those differences. Like the caps are faster, they're cleaner, they're letting go of that signal. They're not holding it, they're not smearing it. We're also got a tweeter that's in a waveguide that's moved back 1.5 inches in depth, so we're physically aligned with the voice coil of the woofer.
The woofer,
Everything's in phase, and everything is arriving in time. So it's all those little things helping to make things come to you in order, in time, where they're supposed to be, and they're creating that three-dimensional field that we're hearing.
Two other impressions that came to mind. One, and we all kind of agreed on this, these speakers share the same DNA, same drivers.
Yeah.
For the most part, there's some slight differences, and the tonality of the speakers all sound very similar. The only exception is the what the heck are they? X-Studios.
You named them.
I named them. I know. That's getting late. The X-Studios. I still feel like maybe a slightly more revealing sound, and not as much meat on the bones in the mid-range as the other speakers.
Sure.
I would agree with that. Not as much meat on much meat on the bones. Single woofer. There's only so much it can do.
Sealed, not open baffle.
Well, like we said, while we did have the depth with that, I didn't have the same width as either of those
but
two.
But to have that in a small room,
oh man,
or to be mixing music with those things,
they're perfect for that application.
Hopefully it'll allow the mixer to hear the things that they're not going to hear with a normal studio monitor.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, and with your design of having that ramp with that open baffle, what I love that you did that, because it was at least giving you that element of open baffle that had that been closed off, it's just gone.
It helps with the spatial cues that you hear in the upper frequency ranges versus here it is coming at you from this point and this point. Here it is from this box forward.
Yeah.
It gives you that sensation of it's within the room. It's there and it's three-dimensional.
Man.
Yeah.
So maybe a teaser for what's the next speakers are, the next series. What are we going to be listening to, Danny?
Well, we're gonna move over to that Serenity series that includes that little Super Mini and the Line Force. We'll save those for tomorrow.
And then we also have a new test we're gonna do.
Yeah, we're gonna do some comparison. We're gonna listen to a pair of speakers that has two networks that are exactly the same.
Danny? What's the point of listening to a speaker with the same network?
To see if there's a difference between the clarity and the detail and the
between the
imaging,
components.
between the components, because the values are all the same. and we'll be able to switch from one, which is this one.
So you copied the schematic of the speaker, same components, just higher quality.
I even measured and tested the values to make sure the
So it
values
measures the same.
were exactly the same.
Oh yeah, of each, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
measured each
you
one.
measured frequency response exactly the same.
Yeah, measures the same. We're gonna look at the frequency response. We're gonna see that they both measure the same, and then we're gonna listen to them and see do they sound the same.
And you
Yeah.
brought a couple mics.
Yep.
We're gonna do some sound clips.
We're gonna measure it. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
gonna
yeah. We're
record
gonna do
it.
some sound clips.
He's gonna record it and see if it.
Yeah, see if you guys
Sounds
can
the
hear
same.
the difference.
Pop
So,
the popcorn, guys.
Yeah. So, awesome. Cool.
More stuff coming.
More stuff coming. Thank you guys. We'll be back. So this is just processing all the audio.
So how do you tell it when to stop?
Oh, I go up and press that red button.